Hello, and today we are going to look at Pendragon, the starter set. Now this is a game I've been a big fan of for many a year, and although I've owned it as a PDF, this is actually the first physical copy of Pendragon I've ever owned. And as you can see, it's packed full of goodies, it's got beautiful art and maps, and it's a pretty decent price. Now Chaosium has done some really good starter sets recently, and yeah, it's going to be good to get into this. So let's pop this open and see what we can see. Now, opening up the box, we've got some nice dice in the top here. We've got a what's in the box, so we've got 1, 2, 3 books, some appendices, some pre-generated characters, some battle cards, and of course the dice. So it really is a jam-packed game here. And if you're not aware of Pendragon, it's effectively the basic role-playing game engine that Chaosium is known for, the D100 system. So Ring Quest, Call of Cthulhu and all that. But obviously each game is slightly different. So book 1, as you can see, is a rather cutesy adventure where you're young kids by the looks of it, and you grow up and become knights. You've then got the actual sort of rules and setting. So if it's not obvious, it's set in the sort of Dark Age / medieval era of King Arthur with a bit of a fantasy twist. Then we've got a little mini campaign, which of course Pendragon's really famous for the great Pendragon campaign, which tracks your family, not just your hero, but your family across many, many years. We then got some appendices, so a bit about tournaments, a bit about battle, overland movement, so a bit of hex crawling, I guess. Oh, visiting foreign courts and pledging your allegiance to foreigners, dear me. Some battle cards, and yeah, there's a couple of those sheets. Then we got these lovely character portraits. So we've got Sir Clarion, Sir Evrain, Dame Linnell, Sir Avaloc, Dame Tamura, Cadwallon, Dame Fenhild, Sir Aristus or Asterius, and yeah, as you can see, you can track the history, the events, nightly events, passive glory, a little bit about your herald and your motto, your age and stuff, and then the actual character sheet itself folds out here. So we've got our characteristics over here on the left, HP and wounds, our various skills in the middle, horses, very important, and equipment, and then on the right the traits, and this is something that I've pinched for other games. The traits and the passions are really, really good. So you're chaste or you're lustful, and depending on what you do, you either become more or less chaste. Same with energy and lazy, forgiving, vengeful, etc. This is a really cool idea of this push-pull mechanic between, rather than having an alignment system, you would actually, by your actions, you'll potentially be testing these and moving points around. So I think that's a pretty cool idea that, as I say, I've pinched for other games that I've designed myself. And the dice, they look pretty good. I'm not mad for this particular style of dice, but you know, they are very, very nice. Now looking at this solo quest, so we've got an introduction to the rules here, and it goes on for a few pages and then talks about the character by the looks of it. And then we start with the adventure on page 7. So we get a little 6-page mini introduction. Don't want to spoil much about this because I actually want to play this myself and try it out. But yeah, that's pretty good. I'm not really going to look at that book in great detail, but this is really what most people are going to be interested in, is this little quick start rules, I guess. So obviously really nice tables at the front with some really cool traditional sort of artwork style going on. So a lovely map of Britain in the time of Arthur. A little bit about the feudal system there by the looks of it. So what the knights do and their responsibilities. And of course this is very interesting because knights had a code of chivalry, and they sort of almost broke quite regularly, it seems, but there you go. They had a system, it worked for them, and the feudal system was around for quite a while. So it talks about dice and statistics, so it's all looking pretty good, and some of this artwork is really, really great. Love it. So fumbles, opposed, tests are in here, experience. Okay, pretty good. Then the bit that Pendragon's most famous for, as I mentioned, traits and passions. So the system of traits and passions help answer one of the game's central question: what kind of knight are you? So yeah, it's a really good way of doing that. So traits represents your personality, and then there's a bit here about how that all works. And then your passions, the intense emotion, much of it uncontrolled. Men are driven to incredible and outrageous acts to prove their love. Family feuds turn sane folk into wild avengers. So that's pretty cool, and obviously the higher your passion, the more intense that feeling becomes, and that can impact you. A little sort of Morgana Le Fay sort of image there by the looks of it. So yeah, madness and all that. Then we get into the skills and what each skill does. So I think this is a pretty good rule book by the looks of it. So honour and glory, obviously glory is very important, and then combat, a bit that often is the most complex part of sets of rules, and yeah, it's quite a few pages there on combat, goes on for a while, my word, look at that. Then we get to arms and armour, which is also sort of combat-y, I guess, so goes on even more. Some nice illustrations. Chainmail, yeah. Then we get into horses, important to your knights, and gotta love this horse, which is again a very traditional sort of medieval looking beastie. So a load of stuff on that. Injury and health, which again is a bit more combat-y. Now obviously, because this is set in that sort of knightly realm, you are going to have lots of people charging around on horses, whacking each other with maces and swords and lances and everything. And we then get into wealth and treasure, and of course if you're a good knight you probably should be giving some of that away. Then we got this thing called the winter phase, which is where sort of you lock yourself up in your keep and wait for winter to go. So work out your experience, do your training, check your personality, change your passions, change your characteristics, train up skills, tally your glory, and work out your prestige, and then you're ready to go. So yeah, that's a really good book, that. And then obviously the sword campaign, I'm not going to be able to look at this too much, but as you can see, got quite a bit. Your Pendragon will vary, I guess this is. Now Glorantha is famous for your Glorantha may vary, and I really like this. It's very easy in a game of like Pendragon or Glorantha or something that's very lore heavy to become obsessed with following the letter of the history and the lore. And this is an idea that, accept that the game is yours, make it your own, and this is something I really find appealing. I don't like someone coming along saying, oh, but in the year 510 this happened in this place, and we're playing a game, we're not playing history. Now obviously it is fun to play history, I did after all study history, but when I'm having a game I want to make stuff my own. Anyway, at risk of spoiling stuff there, so I won't show you that. So it's a great box full of really good content, but obviously books 1 and 3 are hard to show on a video without making major spoilers. So where most of the action is obviously in book 2, and I just say it's got really good stuff. But combat, if you're not into combat, page 32, and I would argue all the way through till Injury and Death on page 60. So over 30 of the 60 odd pages of this book, so over half the pages are dedicated to the grisly business of combat. Now I personally don't think that's a major issue, because I think most games spend all their time on combat because that's the thing you actually need to have rules for, need to roll dice for. If you're just talking to someone, do you really need page after page of rules to tell you how to talk to someone? I don't think so. So there you go, a quick look and peek at my first ever physical copy of the Pendragon game. It's a really good fun game, full of really good ideas. So if you're not really keen on Arthurian knightly legend, there's lots of good stuff in here you can pinch for your own game and your own genre. So I recommend it.